This is Marty from Marty's Diesel, and on today's video, I'm going to perform an overview of our old body style e-fuel system installation. For this video, we are performing step 14 of our initial installation instructions. The intake Y is not installed at this time, so we can check for leaks and provide a better view of the engine bay for our video. As you can see, we have the fuel pressure set to 60 psi. You can also see the fuel pump replacement fitting installed in the valley. We send out a new Ford Brown O-ring for the compressor discharge in our kit. Please use it upon assembly. Back here on either side of the heads, we have also installed the Viton sleeves. I always manage to lose one during the install, so I send you 3 in case you do too. Here you can see the new front of headlines that we supply. We suggest replacing them every time, but especially when your factory ones are cracked. On the bottom of the regulator, we have a 90-degree fitting that directs fuel back to the selector valve. Historically, this fitting had blue accents, but we can't get those made anymore. They will soon have green accents, but I plan on marking them with blue for continuity with our videos. On your fuel pump replacement fitting, you should install a straight fitting, and starting in 2024, you should have a tag attached to this line. This tag instructs you on where this line goes and that you should not remove the tag until you are removing your vacuum gauge. I would like to pause the video here and make sure to show you where the 2 black seals go on the banjo bolt. I would also like to show you how to check your fuel pump replacement fitting to verify it will install the banjo bolt without issue. In these photos, you can see how we have increased the depth that we tap the fitting to. This is to ensure that we are well past where we need to be for proper sealing. We recommend installing your banjo bolt a few times by hand before you install it into the truck. Also, below this fitting, you can see that we have installed the freeze plug. On this particular truck, we have also installed Super Duty undervalve cover harnesses and gaskets. The main reason we do this is because it gets the plug out from under the orange intake boot. Also, in our experience, they are more reliable than the old body style harnesses and pigtails. In the event that you need more than 2 pigtails, it's also cheaper to swap to the Super Duty style anyway. We have also shortened up the IPR pigtail. In this case, we installed a new IPR pigtail. We went from the big fuel bowl plug and eliminated all of the other unnecessary connections. We also verified that this customer's 19mm tin nut was still on the IPR and tight. Here you can see that we have about 7 threads sticking out above the nut, which is adequate for 60 psi. Now, let's briefly go over the top side wiring. You can see how we utilize the fuse box to integrate everything into the truck. This keeps the wire short, efficient, and neat. We have mounted the relay and circuit breaker on the firewall and insist that you do as well. We have a very in-depth wiring harness video that was uploaded at the beginning of 2024. Be sure to check it out. No part of our harness gets attached to the battery, so you don't have to worry about corrosion or too many connections already on your battery. Let's get the truck up on the lift and dive under, where we will start at the selector valve. This particular truck also has our pre-pump solutions kit on it. In this video, you can see we are continuing step 14 on our initial installation instructions. As expected, the vacuum numbers are a little lower than where they will end up once you are driving down the road, but this is 100% normal. We were testing the rear tank at this time. Normal vacuum will read 6 to 8 on the gauge, but you may have to drive the truck dozens of miles before the vacuum number will top out. We mainly test vacuum on install with the truck off so you can get familiar with how the pump is supposed to sound, and in the event of an issue, you can quickly turn the pump off so you don't mess it up. This particular truck also has a new sending unit and umbrella in the rear tank. We also prefer to use straight fittings wherever possible. This is also one of the reasons we prefer placing our pumps in line in our fuel systems. Obviously, at the selector valve, you don't have a choice, but when given the choice, choose less harsh angles for your fuel line routing. Here we have the pre-pump fuel water separator, then the updated black fitting that goes on the inlet side of the fuel pump. We also have our wiring harness neatly zip tied to the pump to make sure that the wires are not pinched, stretched, or chafed. Next is our post-pump filter. Once again, instead of using a 90-degree fuel fitting, we use the hose to make a nice sweeping 90-degree back into the frame rail. We run the feed, return, and the harness wires up the same path and neatly zip tie it along the way. The fuel lines will generally follow the path of the original ones that you have removed. Be sure to avoid the steering shaft and the exhaust manifold. This particular truck is a crew cab long bed, and we have tons of room underneath. You can mount our kit inside the frame rail if your truck's wheelbase exceeds 152 inches or if it's a two-wheel drive truck. You can find that information on the driver's door sticker, or you can measure it yourself. Regardless, you can always mount our kit on the outside of the frame rail. This is how all of our kits ship, and you can swap it to the inside if it works for your truck. Just be sure that the arrows on the filter bases point towards the engine bay. As this video plays out, we are still performing the 10-minute test on the rear tank. You want to make sure that your front tank does not exceed 7 on the gauge and that your rear tank does not exceed 8 during this test. We will leave this gauge on for the first 100 miles per tank and check it periodically. Here you can see our 5-gallon pan setups. The first pan was to run both the green and blue selector valve fittings in and out of so we could verify vacuum and set the fuel pressure. Later, we used the second pan so that we could do our volume flow test. We verified that the pump was pushing between a half of a gallon and 1 full gallon per minute as long as the batteries were 12 volt or better. Never hook the fuel system up to the selector valve until you perform these tests. These tests are outlined on the initial installation instructions. Here, we switch to the front tank and you can see that the vacuum dropped. This is because the front tank has a shorter run of hose and one less 90-degree turn. We swap it back and forth a few times to verify valve operation. You can watch it move the lines and you can hear it switch back and forth. Also, check on the fuel pump temperature. It should be cool to the touch. If the pump is noisy, intermittent, or hot to the touch, you should spend time trying to diagnose why these unusual issues are occurring. Please do not try to drive on a pump that is acting like this. This video is meant to be an overview of our old body style e-fuel kit when installed. More technical information and instruction is available in our update videos and can be found on our installation page. You should receive a folder with your order that should include a checklist of parts in your kit, a flow chart for you to fill out, and finally, a couple of QR codes for you to follow to take you right to the installation instructions and the initial key-on installation instructions. These pages are constantly updated with every change we make to the kit, so be sure to check them out. As always, if you have any questions, you can call us or email us at the information provided on the screen now. Thank you for watching and have a nice day.